In the wake of World War II, when the extent of the Nazi atrocities was finally revealed, the Rockefellers helped to continue the eugenics agenda by converting the American Eugenics Society into the Rockefeller-founded Population Council. The Carnegie family has also been instrumental in using their billions to change society for the worse under the protective banner of philanthropy.
So this attitude of superiority has its roots in ancient times and has persisted for thousands of years, until now. So let's take a peek into how Hollywood represents the roots of our Western world.
We Greeks are the chosen, the elect. Our culture is the best. Our civilization the best, our men the best.
Now watch!
All others are barbarians, and it is our moral duty to conquer them, enslave them, and if necessary, destroy them. Wonders are many, but none is more wonderful than man himself. The Persian way of life has the seed of death and fear in it, the Greek of life and courage. The gods of the Greeks are made in the image of man, not men with birds' heads and bulls with lions' heads, but men who can be understood and felt.
Thus beneath great-hearted Achilles his whole hooved horses trampled corpses and shields together, and with blood all the axle-tree below was sprinkled, for blood drops from the horses' hooves splashed them, and blood drops from the tires of the wheels, for the son of Peleus pressed on to winning glory, flecking with gore his irresistible hands.
Interestingly enough, Alexander the Great later wrote a letter back to his teacher Aristotle, and to employ a paraphrased summary, Alexander is angered with Aristotle printing books which allow basically anyone who can read to discover and learn how to use words to control others, or protect themselves from being controlled by others, both of which Alexander was concerned about. Specifically, it reads like this.
Alexander to Aristotle. Greeting. You've not done well to publish your books on oral doctrine. What is there now that we excel others in? If those things which we have been particularly instructed in be laid open to all. For my part, I assure you, I'd rather excel others in the knowledge of what is excellent than in the extent of my power and dominion. Farewell. Alexander is frustrated by his teacher giving away the tools to persuade, to coerce and control others. If not for that power, Alexander would have to rely on the use of force to coerce others to do his will. He's also concerned that people will be insulated from his persuasive rhetoric and appeals to emotion of their emotions and actions. But the point is this. There's a concept in ancient Greece known as the noble lie, which uses words to trick you out of your liberty, to prevent you from making informed decisions, and the noble lie denies you any ability to pursue and attain your happiness. Before Aristotle, Plato had used the Allegory of the cave to describe those who believe the noble lie.
Whatever you think of Plato's quest for permanent answers, nobody denies the power of the Republic's most famous story, the Allegory of the Cave. Imagine that this is the only world you have ever known. For as long as you can remember, you have been chained here in this cave, watching the shadows dance on the wall in front of you. Unable to even turn around, you have no idea that they are merely reflections cast by the outside world. You believe they are all there is to life. This is your reality. Then, one day, a prisoner breaks loose. Drawn to the light, he is almost blinded by his first sight of the sun. But little by little, he is able to open his eyes and see the world beyond the cave.
We are prisoners right now. We are now in the middle of a cave. Don't think of a dark room in which we are all tied up. This is the cave. The freest moments that we have for Plato are moments of imprisonment, are moments of slavery. We all begin, in some sense, as prisoners of our culture, or our religion, or our civilization. We're given answers to the most fundamental questions. What is love? What's a good family? Who is God? Nowadays, the currently fashionable, conventional philosophy that's taught in our schools is something called pragmatism. The idea being that we just simply can't really transcend our own time and culture, that we have to just deal with the world that's given to us. Now, Plato would say that means just rearranging the shadows on the walls of our cave.
One of the tasks with the Republic is to bring people out of the cave where they're not looking at shadows, but looking at the real thing, out into the sun. If there's a cave today and shadows that people are looking at, it is the sort of darkened living room at 4 in the afternoon with those images flickering across the screen, miseducating the young.
Are his fellow prisoners thrilled to learn that the real world is out there? Not exactly. Plato ends the story by saying that they would tear the enlightened one limb from limb if they could break their chains. He has challenged everything they believe in. Of course, once you have seen the light, it is hard to go back. As Socrates discovered, it is a lonely job being the bearer of new ideas.
This is a message to the future, a message to free humanity, that we don't let our species be destroyed, that we don't let ourselves become dehumanized. It is the greatest crime in history that the establishment, that the social engineers are dumbing us down by design, that they are nurturing and funding and activating and promoting all of the most base instincts and things that are destructive, so that we can be basically damaged goods that they can control and use as their biological androids, as their slaves. We have been destroyed by our own prosperity. We have become anesthetized by all the entertainment and the food and the drugs. We have to rediscover the fact that this is a human experience, a struggle by our species to survive and to grow and to become even greater. That's what it is to be a human. And when you look at the beauty around you, when you realize just how good and special life is, when you appreciate it, then you will be fulfilled. The Western world is crumbling because we are individually crumbling on the inside, because we've bought in to the propaganda of Madison Avenue, because we have let the controllers of our society misdirect our basic human drive and instinct to love and to fight and to be passionate and real. In the global controllers' quest to domesticate and dumb us down so they can control and dominate the future, they have damaged the human species. They have misdirected our prime directive to grow and to build and to search and to trailblaze and explore. But the minute you start exploring and creating and loving life is the minute that the pendulum begins to swing from tyranny and dehumanization towards liberty.
A long, long time ago, in a federation of city-states known as ancient Greece, a literate person named Plato wrote a book titled The Republic, wherein he elaborated upon an idea translated as the magnificent myth, which is known to us as the noble lie. To define this concept, in politics, a noble lie is a myth or untruth told by an elite to maintain social harmony or the social position of that elite. A noble lie, although it may benefit all parties, is different from a white lie since it doesn't cause discord when uncovered, whereas noble lies are usually of such a nature that they do.
$10 billion in a single quarter from what they call trading and principal investments. So what does that mean? Well, basically, when our country crashed financially a year ago, Goldman Sachs used all the taxpayer money they were given to buy up all sorts of properties and investments. And now that the economy is recovering, Goldman Sachs is getting rich on the back of the American taxpayer. Since last October, Goldman Sachs has received from the government, that's you hardworking American, thank you, presto, $10 billion from the TARP, Presto, 11 billion from the Fed, poof, 30 billion from the FDIC, and yes, kazam, $13 billion from AIG. That a total of, yes, 70 billion US dollars. Pretty good, right?
A lot of money.
Yeah. Here's where the magic comes in. You can see the market sort of marching along and goes in the gutter here. You see that?
Yep.
At the point that the market goes in the gutter last fall, we give Goldman Sachs $70 billion as we just described. Yeah? Mm-hmm. They take that money and begin acquiring assets at a time when no one else in the world has any money. Imagine, if you would, that you are on your block, and how many houses are on your block?
I don't know, say 10.
10 houses on your block. Now imagine that every house on your block collapsed in value and was suddenly only worth 10 cents on the dollar because there was a great financial panic and a great real estate panic on your block.
I have to imagine.
It happened, right? Now imagine that you went to the taxpayer and they gave you, Alex Witt, because you're Goldman Sachs, $70 billion, and you were able to go and buy every house on your block for 10 cents. Make sense? In other words, they came into this distressed asset pool using taxpayer money when every other bank had collapsed.
Bought things cheap.
Bought everything on the cheap.
Okay.
Then, and they bought it, which is fine, other than the fact they bought it with our taxpayer money with which they would have otherwise been bankrupt. In other words, Goldman Sachs doesn't exist without taxpayer help. Period.
Yeah.
But because we actually allow them to continue to exist and we supply them with all this money, they take the money and buy all these assets. Then we, by way of the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and a variety of other vehicles, put 23.7 trillion US dollars underneath the entire U.S. economy. And in the process, we have reinflated the stock market, we have reinflated a variety of asset classes, except for the difference this time is Goldman Sachs now owns everything because they were the only ones with the money. It's not everything, but they own a lot more than they otherwise would have, and it's simply become worth a lot more. The tragedy here and the crime is that they never gave us an interest in that money. We gave them $70 billion, and they have all the money and all the power.
So it stayed all within Goldman Sachs.
You got it.
Well, it's a curious kind of underdoggery where they complain about liberal bias in the media one moment and then brag about their cable dominance the next. Now, to a dumb foreigner like me, all the Fox anchors look like characters in some 80s frat house comedy.
Oh, wait, do you?